So I'm here with Dave Rossum at Superbooth. We're going to check out some modules. We'll start with Evolution that's already out. Dave, do you want to walk us through it?
Sure. Evolution is a voltage-controlled low-pass filter. It's a laddered filter type design. This is in full production right now. The operation is, the first two controls are pretty straightforward. You've got the classic frequency control. What do I press here to get some sound happening out of this? Okay. So as I bring the frequency control up here, classic low-pass filter type of sound. I can give you some resonance or cue on the sound. Take the thing all the way up into oscillation if you want. It actually makes a wonderful sine-wave oscillator as well. The interesting controls on Evolution are the genus and species controls. The genus control is controlling the number of poles in the filter, but it does that in a continuous time kind of way. So as we can hear a little bit of difference in the sound there, but if we start real-time modulating it, we get these really interesting vocal kinds of sounds and things like that. And then the species control gives interactions between the cue and the poles, and also adjusts in very subtle ways in the lower half of its control the distortion that is internal to the ladder of the filter. So there's a lot of subtlety. It's hard to hear, of course, here in the show environment, but it's very, very nice. So that's Evolution. It's an all-analog product. Our next two products, which are we have pretty good prototypes of, we have Control Forge. Control Forge is probably too complicated to go deeply into here, but it is basically, as it says, a programmable universal control voltage generator. You can see it operating here with in an LFO mode, where we're stepping through a variety of different segments. This LFO, I think, is conditional. So if I turn down one of these knobs, it'll get trapped. It's now gotten trapped into this little section here, and with this control voltage knob, when it reaches a certain point, it then escapes and does the second half of the oscillator. We can see the different shapes that are being programmed. There's a kind of zigzag shape that it's going through now. It's now going into a nice curve, then a slower zigzag, and then a chaotic kind of thing right there. So the basic idea is you've got programmability of the segment length and time, the segment starting and ending points, and the trajectory. And many of these parameters are also voltage controllable as you run the control forge.
So, shall we move over, and the one that's got everyone excited, and the one I've been asked to cover the most is, I understand it's a prototype, the new sampler. Can you tell us a little bit about the sampler?
Yeah, even prototype is probably too strong a word. I mean, genuinely, this is really more of a mock-up. There's no guts at all behind it. And what we announced, if you read it carefully, we say we're announcing the development. We know what we're going to do. This is a prototype, proposal of a front panel for it. But the basic features of it, it is a sampler. It's like all EMU products that I designed way back when. Very capable of very high fidelity, 24-bit samples internally, capable of quite high sample rates, 96 kHz at least. We're planning on having about 160 seconds total of sample memory in the module, which can be divided up among the 8 different channels, as you please. Each channel is an independent sample playback engine, and each channel has 3 control voltages that are really general purpose in nature. So you'll be able to have those control the pitch of the sample, the amplitude of the sample, parameters like the bit depth of the sample, where the looping starts and ends, interesting things like that. And those are assignable on a per channel basis. You can actually sample within the module. Your samples will be stored on a little card, and the card will be readable by a computer as well.
So that's going to be live stereo sampling. Exactly,
right.
And sample playback from the card as well.
Right,
Together.
Exactly. And then we call it a phase modulation sampler because in addition to being able to voltage control just the sample rate of the playback, the frequency, if you like, of the playback, you'll also be able to control the actual location of the sample playback with a control voltage.
So would that be audio rate phase modulation right up into audio range as well?
Right, it'll go it's fully at the sample rate of the system. So you can go from, if you're putting in an LFO in there, it's more like scratching through a sound or something like that. As you get up an audio rate, now it becomes true phase modulation.
Like the Casio CZ range, that you can get into phase synthesis, phase distortion as well.
That's exactly right, within the sample playback. And it sounds very, very interesting, both phase modulating with external oscillators. We've, again, I've done a lot of the mathematical models of this stuff and heard it, and we're very excited about the sound.
Yeah, so will the CV inputs be tracking a volt per octave?
Yeah.
Will that be assignable?
Yeah, exactly. Right. So typically you'd put assign one into a volt per octave and use that for your tonal music. Just put in your 1 volt per octave keyboard CV, and that'll make the pitch happen. Everything will translate with pitch and so on. But as I say, they're also assignable to the other parameters as well. So you can do all these other interesting modulations, including the phase modulation.
I'm going to get asked if I don't ask you now. Have you a rough idea when this is coming? Sort of back end of the year?
We're saying by the end of the year is when we're planning on having it in production. I think it'll probably be very end of fall that it'll be coming out, and we'll have a lot more details coming out over the summer and in the fall. There will actually have some hardware and so on.
And I think another one everyone was sort of really excited about is the Morpheus, the Z-plane filters.
Right.
Sort of 3D filter space.
Right.
Can you walk us through the Morpheus?
Absolutely. This is really the one I'm most excited about because it's real. I'm doing the last bits of the development on it.
So this is really close to going into production.
Yeah. Both the control forge and the Morpheus here. You can see these are production prototype boards. We've got a few little tiny tweaks to the hardware. Excuse me, but they're very solid. And in the Morpheus, we're got everything fundamentally working. I've got a little more tweaking on the actual DSP of the filter to do, and then we've got to go through all the 288 filters and fine-tune parameters and things like that. Right now, I've got it hooked up to a filter called VOW1, and you can see as I turn the different, let me turn down the modulation to start here. You can see that as I move the various knobs over here, the transfer function of the filter moves around in really quite interesting ways. And if we then turn up the sound over here and get some modulation on this, we can get these kind of vocal sounds out of this particular we can change the filters. So this is kind of a fun one. This has got really deep combs in here. Put a little noise into that. That makes some really outrageous sounds as well. And that's going to be pretty loud out there, but turn that down again. But with all these different filters in here, you can just see the huge variety of different kinds of transfer functions we can get out of there.
So you can see the sort of the filter shape, where within this 3D space you are.
Right, exactly. And that's you're seeing it actually tracking with the control voltage here. So this is probably a so wherever you are in the cube, you can see what does the filter sound like there. And these are all, as I say, real-time responsive and things like that. The things we have yet to do, you'll be able to craft a preset with each one of these that'll give you the sensitivity of the controls and the gain in and out. Because a lot of these filters, because they have a lot of gain, you're going to want to have that customized to the particular patch that you've got, so that you're driving it the right amount and then getting it out in the right amount. So the user will be able to program all of that.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much for running that down, and we'll look forward to seeing these come out through the year.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.